We are still in the front half of tax season, and I am here to give you some wisdom. If you will file your taxes early, it comes with so many benefits. Today, I want to cover what those benefits are and hopefully motivate you to get started if you haven't already and finish in the next few weeks. If you will do this, rest assured you will have a clear mind and can begin to focus on other things that matter in your life. Think about where you are on your taxes right now, and then imagine what it would be like to have finished. Yeah, I know. Glorious. Let me give you 5 benefits of getting those taxes done early right now. Let's go.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror. Where future success is reflected in our knowledge of fixing the one thing we can control, ourselves.
Thanks for joining me today on The Financial Mirror as we continue to improve the one thing you can control, yourself. If this is the first time you are joining in, don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube to be notified of all the new episodes as they release. If you are listening to this on a podcast platform of your choice, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. On Apple and Spotify, leave that 5-star review and a written comment, as that goes a long ways in getting more and more listeners to the show, and obviously benefiting their personal finances through the conversations and information that we deliver here at the Financial Mirror. So, as I stated in the intro, this is all about encouragement. This is all about building you up, getting you ready to show you why there is a ton of benefit out there for you to file your taxes early, right? So as of right now, there is a you would be ahead of the line if you were starting to think about taxes and tax season. W-2s have just sort of rolled out. Everything is kind of flowing. I'm still getting some tax documents in the mail. But this is kind of a chance for everything to mellow out, everything to sort of start to fall into place. And that leads me, many people think that, you have to wait on certain documents or certain things. That doesn't mean that you have to wait. You might have to wait to file, but it doesn't mean you have to wait to get started, right? Technically, the earliest that you can file, though, is January 23rd. Right? That's the earliest you can start filing. For some people, they may not even have their W-2s yet, right? So that's why as these documents come in, if you can just be getting them together at a minimum and start to prepare for tax season, that is what we're looking for. That is what the goal is for us to file taxes. So I wanted to start off with, what do you need to get started with your taxes, right? What's some of those preemptive things that you could start preparing now to prepare to get ready for the tax season that's ahead of you? Well, the easiest is the W-2, right? It's the easiest thing you can get. It's the most common thing out there. It's going to show you how much you made from your employer, how much you paid in taxes, so forth and so on, different deductions for 401ks or 403bs or whatever the case is. But this is a chance for you to get that document. That's the W-2. The other more common one is the 1099 form that you would see if you were a contractor or you did gig work or things like that. You may see that. I've done an episode on Instacart. You would get some type of 1099 for that. I do some of my financial coaching is pushed through Fiverr. So people find me on my website, but I use Fiverr as a way to extend the reach to more people that may just want to find me on there and reach out. But all of those things are going to provide you a 1099 for your services. Retirement accounts provide you a 1099. Brokerage accounts provide you a 1099. Dividends that are paid from a savings account or from a stock, or the interest paid from a savings account. All of those things are going to go through a 1099. So that's a very common form, and there's different flavors, the B and the C and all these things. But the 1099 is another very common form that we'll see as we start to prepare for tax season. Mortgage and property tax statements. That's another one that is very common for us to see. Donation receipts is something that's kind of on you to go figure out. What did you donate? What are you going to write off for a deduction, right? And business expenses. If you file a income tax that is combined with yours, like you file your business under your social, that's one thing. If you have a whole nother tax, filing that has to be done as a business, that's a whole nother thing. So the biggest takeaway here is that I want you to start thinking about what can I do right now that's going to help me during tax season. Get these documents together. You might still be waiting on some of them. It's totally fine. That's totally fine. It doesn't mean that you should just wait and say, well, I'm just going to wait until I get all of them. No, just start getting the things together now, because that is giving you a leg up on filing your taxes. Now, today's episode, I really wanted to focus on 5 areas, 5 key benefits that you instantly get if you will file your taxes early. And that's what I wanted to focus on. That's what I wanted to look at today. Okay. So 5 things. These are very, very simple. Some of them you might be like, yeah, like that makes sense, but I already knew that. Okay, cool. Hopefully I can just reiterate it. Hopefully I can spark a little bit under you, because so many people that I work with, so many people that I see and that I talk to, they're all waiting to the last minute to do taxes. And that just is not a good behavior for many reasons, right? And these 5 things hopefully will drive and put a little spark under you so you can go after it and get your taxes done now. So, number 1, the first one that I want to make sure I mention is that it is easier to get a booking with your tax preparer. If you use a tax preparer, the longer you wait for you to start on your taxes, the more booked your tax preparer is going to become, right? So tax season exists, right? We all know it exists. It starts January 23rd, and this year it ends on April the 18th, 2023. We all know it exists. We all have the same timeline. If you can imagine, everyone trying to go the same direction, right? Like we're all trying to go into town at work at 8 a.m. What happens, right? We just have this congestion of vehicles and buses and other transportation means on the roadway that's just creating traffic jams, wrecks. You see the dilemma here. Everyone is trying to finish their taxes, between January 23rd and April 18th. There's a start date and a finish date, and everybody's got to do their stuff in between those 2 days. So tax preparers get backed up. They get booked. You need to get started early, at least get your appointment set with your tax preparer if you use one. With more options becoming online, people are resorting to this to where they're doing their taxes on their own, whether that be through like a TurboTax or an H&R Block or whatever. But those things also have like an H&R Block Live or TurboTax Live. I don't know what they call it, but that also you get paired with a accountant that can go over these things with you, right? And help you with your taxes. I don't know how the booking works, but I'm quite sure that those get booked out too, just like anyone else, right? Because you can only have so many people that are doing a certain service. So it's important to make sure that you get ahead of this, that you get ahead of getting on your tax preparer's book, making sure that you're good for that area, because they're going to be booked. If you thought getting appointments in like other places like haircuts and doctors and all that were hard, doctors can be hard. I'm not going to give you that one, because sometimes they stop accepting patients and all that. And now you're in the same boat as a tax preparer. But when a tax preparer is booked, they're booked. Like they're more than likely going to just cut you off. No more. I'm not taking anybody else. So that person that knows your history and knows, sort of a backdrop of you and who you are, they can't see you anymore. So you got to go describe it to all over to somebody else. You can see the dilemmas here. You can see the issues, but you have till April 18th. That's the deadline. The IRS does not care that your tax preparer is booked. Call them up, tell them. They'll say, I don't care. April 18th is your deadline, and you'll move on with your life. So I tell you all that to say, number one benefit is, you get a chance to work with the tax preparer you're used to, or at least you can get a chance to even work with a tax preparer versus trying to go out and do it on your own. The second one, and this is another big one, and I really want to make sure, and many people don't know this exists, but the second one is there's less chance for tax identity theft. and I hate that this is a thing. I really hate that this is a thing, but what is it exactly? Well, pretty much is where someone is filing taxes under your name, right? They may have gotten your social, they may have gotten your name, your address, whatever. And and that's from various breaches out there. Your information, we share our information so freely, so many times that this information can get breached. And when that happens, an individual, some type of thief, right, some type of criminal, they get a hold of your information, and these individuals will wait until tax season sometimes and say, you know what, I've got a social, I've got an address, I know the family dynamics, I see it all, and I'm just going to file a tax return on their behalf. I'm going to hide this into, accept the return at like a PO box or something that's not in my name. I'm going to hide this and do some type of like masquerading of facts that this hacker, this attacker, or this, criminal or thief, whatever you want to call this person, that they can hide this in such a way that all of a sudden they'll sneak off with your refund and off they go, right? And that's not something you're getting back. That's not something that, is easy to track. If you can hide that through enough accounts, that's a very difficult situation. So the sooner you do this, the less, you start to decrease the chances of this happening, right? Because if I do it in the first 2 weeks of tax season, that criminal or that thief is not going to be able to file it in time. Because here's what normally happens. What normally happens is these people with this, doing some tax identification theft, what they end up doing is they'll get to a certain part in the tax return and be like, oh, I don't know that information. And then they'll go and try to figure that piece of information out. Then they'll come back and they'll finish. Well, if you can finish it before that happens, you can get that initial send off happening. Well, guess what? All of a sudden you've beat the thief, right? They still have your information. I got it. I understand that. But at least you beat the thief. You got your tax filing done. It's going to you. Everybody is happy in that sense. And now we can worry about the other piece, the identity theft protection and things like that. But the longer you wait, the higher these chances of this happening are. Okay. So I did want to take a moment to just tell you, say, like, what happened? Like, if this happened to me, what's sort of the next steps? Well, the IRS says to use the form 14039 and alert the IRS that someone has filed a return using your identification. The IRS may send you a letter 5071C as in Charlie, just asking to verify your identity. I would also, recommend filing a police report if that happened to you. But in the description of this episode, I did put, I thought it would be very helpful to just stick a link to the IRS page so you could go and look and prepare yourself. They just give you a couple of, major ways that people are conducting tax identity theft. And so it's just a good read for you to, just to follow along. And I hate to say this, but it's true. The younger generation is seeing and more familiar with some of these attack vectors, right? The older generation, or more seasoned generation, or more knowledgeable generation, however you would like to be called, or most beautiful generation, however you want to be described, that is, you're much more likely. We see that you're much more likely to fall victim to these type of scams. So go and read and be familiar with some of those scams that are out there, just to prepare yourself. But the sooner you can do this, sooner you file your taxes, the less chance of this happening to you is. Number 3, the more time to plan for tax payments. So last week I talked about the perfect tax refund is actually no refund at all. So if you missed that episode, go and listen to it. Pretty much the goal is to break even or just owe a little, or maybe get a small refund, just not a big one, right? So as you figure out your W-4 and you start to figure out how you're going to do those, how you're going to do your W-4 in terms of what you're claiming, what you're not claiming, how much you're paying in taxes, and that sort of thing, you could potentially overcorrect in withholdings and not having enough money withheld from your check, and you owe a little more than planned, right? Well, filing early will allow you enough time to prepare for that payment, because you're going to file, you're going to see sort of what that looks like, how much you are going to have to pay, and now you can start to prepare to have to pay for that, right? That's a huge benefit, because then the next year you can adjust your withholdings and get back closer to break even. But what sort of things normally cause this? Well, obviously, if you're trying to correct your W-4 and get it closer to, no tax refund, go listen to last week's episode. If you're like, what? No tax refund? What? Who doesn't get a tax refund? Like, go listen to last week's episode. Hopefully it clears some things. But there are other things that could cause you to not get a tax refund. One of which is, did you sell a home, right? That's a lot of money you got to pay taxes on. Could have changed your withholdings. Did you have some type of inheritance that changes, your taxable income? And you got to pay taxes on that. Well, you probably didn't account for it, right? So things like that could increase your tax bill, and you could owe money at the end of the year. So just doing your taxes early just allows you enough time to plan and be prepared for those tax payments as they're about to come up. Number 4 is it does give you a better chance of a more accurate return and a less chance of audit, right? Like you don't want to be audited, but it happens. It absolutely happens. So think about this. This is the example I like to give you to think about is you wait. What happens as you wait to do your taxes? Well, you get a little bit more stressed about it, right? When you're stressed, a couple things happen. The number one thing that happens is you start to increase your chance of errors, right? The more errors that's on your tax return, the higher your chances of being audited is. If the IRS sees something that's a little off as they're going through and looking at your tax return that you filed, that you were so stressed when you were doing it, all of a sudden you had a problem. Something didn't match, something didn't vibe right with them. And they're like, you know what? You get an audit. Done. Here goes your audit. If things go smooth, the audit's pretty painless, right? But there's a chance that it doesn't go smooth. So that's very important because an audit takes away from your ability to do, to continue focus on other parts of your life. It starts to be a distraction. It starts to make you have to go and collect paperwork, collect supporting documentation, provide justification, show why you weren't lying, show why it's this and not that, and show all of these things takes time. And that is time that you could be doing to all those other things you want to do, right? There's so many things you want to do. And this is the opportunity to do it by being focused. I'm not saying that if you file early, you're not going to get audited. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you start to get rid of some of those human errors that happen as we're doing our taxes, especially if you're stressed as you're waiting and it's getting closer to the deadline and you're trying to hurry. Definitely more chance of mistakes. So think about this. If you will, have a stress-free filing, you will have a less chance of being audited. That's literally how I like to think about it. But if you had a month between today and April 18th, the due date, right, for your tax season, you have enough time to be a little more patient, right? A little bit more patient. If you think about it, you've got a lot of days left. I think you got 50-ish days left. If it's April 8th and your taxes are due on April 18th, you got a problem. You got a big problem, and you're probably stressing about it. I'm not going to lie. You're probably stressing. And that is going to make you potentially create errors. And you've got a higher chance of getting audited when that happens. Auditing is not fun, by any means. It's very time consuming. So if we can limit that or lower the chances of that happening, that's somewhere we want to be. That's something that we really want to focus on because that is a true testament to patience, is to be able to provide the justification for why you said what you did and why you did what you say and all these kinds of things. So do it if you can. Get the tax filing out the door early and make sure that you lower the chances, not eliminate, but lower the chances of an audit. And number 5, the 5th benefit is it does remove the tax stress early, right? As I mentioned in the auditing one, and making sure that you are having a more accurate return, I talked about stress, and I said the word stress a lot. And I will say this, tax stress is real. And as you get closer to the due date, all of a sudden it becomes overly stressful because you have a due date, right? You've got to have it in by this date, and you're just not there. You're just not there. So what ends up happening is that starts to creep in, and people around you feel it. The people at work feel it. The people at home feel it. The kids feel it. everybody is feeling the stress you have because it'll start to creep in. It'll start to creep in as that due date's getting closer. You're thinking about it consciously and subconsciously. You're thinking about it. But the most important thing for you to remember is nothing is preventing you from doing your taxes, well, except you, right? Like you are the reason that your taxes aren't done. Now, I say that tongue in cheek because if you're using a tax preparer, there's a good chance that you may be waiting, right? That you're waiting for that appointment. But here's what I have to say. If you walk into a tax preparer and you have every single document ready, like everything, you got it all, and it's in a folder or it's in a binder, and it's like boom, 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 here's January, February, March, December, whatever. All of a sudden, that tax preparer is like, holy smokes, this is easy. I'm going to do this one first, right? We like to do the easy projects first. So if they see your project and they're like, man, that's easy, I'm about to knock that out, because they get short-term success. So they're going to take yours and they're going to bump you up to the front and they're going to knock it out because you're just so well prepared. Like you're ready to go. Everyone else is like still providing these documents and they're waiting to hear back from them, and they've sent out this message and no reply, whatever. But the biggest thing is that if you will just prepare everything, they will be willing to help you. If you will prepare everything, you will be less stressed. Even if your taxes aren't filed yet, you will be less stressed because of the simple fact that you got everything ready to go. All of it's ready to go. So if there's one thing I can tell you is to go ahead and get everything ready, get everything together. Start, if you're doing it online, go ahead and get everything set up online and get ready to go. Get all the information you need, personal information, socials, date of births, addresses, W-2s, 1099s, yada, yada, the whole works. And get ready to do it. Sit down, plan a time, and just do it. Just do it. And if you're waiting on a tax preparer, get the appointment, get all of your documents ready, walk in, binder ready to go, and let's do it, right? Let's do it. Because removing that tax stress early is important. It allows you to start focusing on other things that you need to be working on, not taxes. Let taxes just be a check the box activity and off you go. So you can see filing taxes early has a ton of benefits. You can see it. There's 5 of them. I just went over, right? Just went over the 5. It's easier to get with a tax preparer. There's less chance of tax identity theft. You have more time to plan for potential tax payments. More accurate returns, less chance of auditing, and it removes the tax stress early on, right? But if you'll get ahead and do it now, start today, you will get to feel all of these benefits. Because if you're listening to this, it's still February. You're ahead of the game. You're ahead of the game if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Put me in, coach. I'm about to go do the taxes and let's do it. You're ahead of the game. Most people are still trying to collect paperwork. Most people are still trying to figure things out. So if you got it all together, go get it done. Get the taxes filed now, today, right? If you need a tax preparer, call today. Get your appointment. If you're doing it yourself, do it today or this weekend. Just do it. Just plan it and do it, right? Just do it. The biggest thing here is to remember, and it's what I built the Financial Mirror on. We like to focus on controlling the one thing or changing the one thing you can control yourself, right? Like you need to change yourself and you are in control of this. Are there outside factors? Sure. But getting your tax paperwork together and getting all the documents together makes filing taxes so much easier, right? So much easier. So get everything together, get it all into a pile, get ready to file your taxes, and then just go do it, right? Go do it. There's huge benefits. You get to move on. You get to move to the next chapter of your life. You don't have to sit around and wait, right? Just do it. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover, because I know that when we are stressed or when we're thinking about something, we have this thing in the back of our mind that's constantly nagging at us, it's constantly bothering us. It takes away from us being able to do the other things that we want to do in life to accomplish the other goals, the other pieces that we're really going after. It takes away our focus from being able to do those. So when we can do these little check the box activities like doing taxes, when we can just do it and just get it over with and put it behind us, we don't have to think about it anymore. We get to move on with our life. While you hear everyone else, still haven't done my taxes and blah, blah, blah. Like you're like, oh, I'm done with that. What next? Like, what am I thinking about right now? So like, it's a great enabler for you to start to focus. And it also it makes you feel successful, right? It makes you feel like ahead of the game because everyone else is like, like remember back in school when your teacher's like, all right, don't forget that paper that's, due on Friday before your weekend. And everyone in the room is like, man, I hadn't even started. And you're sitting there like, oh, I've already done that. Hopefully that was you. Hopefully you were that student. But if not, I mean, just imagine what that feels like. I'm just kidding. I wasn't always that student. So, but remember, if you can get it done, you're like, oh, I'm already done with that. You start thinking about like, what am I doing this weekend? Everyone else is still thinking about that paper. And I'm like, oh, what am I doing this weekend? Everyone else is still thinking about the taxes. And you're like, oh, I've already done that. What am I doing this weekend? Right? Same concept. But I hope that this has provided some help, and I hope this has provided some encouragement so that you can for sure move on to the next piece, the next thing you want to focus on. And speaking of that, if the next thing you want to focus on is a financial goal and you're unsure of exactly how you're going to get there, head over to thefinancialmirror.org and go ahead and hit book now in the middle of the screen. I serve as a financial coach, and I'd be happy to be your financial coach. Do a customized plan for you. Packages currently are set up as 1 session, 3 session, or 6 sessions. Most time we schedule those out over, eat 1 session a month, just so we can get a nice little coverage around your life. But if there's a certain goal that we need to meet more often or less regular, we can happily do that. The biggest thing here is to get a chance to figure out what is good for you. Head over to thefinancialmirror.org, hit book now, and go ahead and schedule a free consultation. We'll sit down, we'll decide what package is best for you, or if a financial coach is even right for you. It doesn't cost you a thing, totally free. Just head over to the website and get that consultation booked today. Finally, if you do want to give a little extra dose of support to the stream, head over to thefinancialmirror.org/shop and pick you up some awesome Financial Mirror gear. I truly appreciate every single person. I truly appreciate everything that you are continuing to do. I truly appreciate every single milestone, every single goal, every single thing that you're doing in your finance life, that you're just taking those steps in the right direction to get to the financial goals that you have. If you're listening to this on a podcast and you are really enjoying it, don't forget to share it with your coworkers, with your friends, with your family members, so that they can start taking some of those same steps that you are, so that they can improve their personal finances. Because the biggest thing we can do is create a village of people that are just so totally invested in their personal finances that, we all know that finances are stressful. We all know it. We see it. We see it on the day-to-day of people like stressing over money. And I'm here to tell you that if we can start to just help people just take that next step, we can change our communities. We can change our families. We can change our friends, right? For the better as they get a little bit, more confident in the direction they're headed. So hopefully you took that away and you can share this with the friends, families around you. If you are enjoying it yourself, don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review and a written comment, as that does go a long way in helping grow the podcast, helping grow the YouTube channel, and continue to provide this information to more and more listeners. I appreciate it. I appreciate you tuning in. Till next week, continue improving the one thing you can control, yourself. Peace.
Well, that wraps up today's Financial Mirror. Join us next week as we continue to work on ourselves, change our mentality, and to commit to achieving the success we always envisioned. Regardless of your platform, help us grow as a community. Please like, subscribe, and share with the people in your lives.